Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I just thought I'd give everyone a little rundown of the process from start to finish. So, to start off with, do some very basic shapes, as you've seen here, and then just fill them in. Try and get some emotion, the important shapes, the distinguishing characteristics of the characters in the piece. So, obviously, now I'm just drawing Zelda, trying to capture. This is the scene from it. It was in the trailer at the time, but the scene in the game where Zelda just breaks down because she just can't. Well, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but yeah, she's upset and she's falling to Link's arms in tears. So this is that scene, and I'm just really trying to capture the emotion in her face. I haven't quite got it yet, but I'll carry on and I'll get there, hopefully. So let's keep going. Got the motion in the hair. That's a very important part. It's important to try and capture the motion because she's falling forwards, and she's just collapsing into him, and she just can't carry on. So I'm just gonna finish up all these pencils, and then I'll be back once I get over to inks. You can see I'm doing a lot of rotation. That's a very useful tool actually, because you've got to use the natural movement of your joints in order to get the best curves, the best lines, all that sort of thing. So that's very important. If you're using Photoshop, if you hold down R and then just drag, you can rotate the canvas. Or if you're using a bit of paper, I mean, just obviously turn it. So I've narrowed down what I'm going for here, and what I try to do at this point is just to block in the colours. Usually I'd go for inks, but in this instance I tried to narrow down, minimize the number of lines in it, because what I'm trying to do at the moment, and something that's actually very important, is to stop thinking of things as being constrained by lines. Which is to say, if you look at your hand, there's no lines around it. It's not like cel shaded. There's not like a big black line around it. It's a 3D object, and it's easy to get stuck in the mindset that everything has lines around it. Obviously, you don't think that consciously, but that comes out practically in our pieces, and that's a place that I'm currently trying to get out of, and that's a tricky thing to do. Right. So anyway, just to break down what I've been doing with colour here. It starts with just block colours, so the mid-tone, which is to say, if it were possible to see something in a complete absence of shadow, also an absence of excessive light, so sort of a neutral, completely neutral thing, that would be the colour. So imagine a sphere, imagine your hand, whatever you want to imagine. You've got the lighter parts, which are where there's a particular abundance of light, where it's reflecting in a particularly strong way, and then you've got the darker parts, which are where the shadow is. In between that, you've got the mid-toned. I probably didn't need to explain that, but maybe it'll help someone. There you go. So here we go. This for instance, is the mid-tone of the hair, and as we go on, we'll get the darker tones. I end up changing the eyebrows a little bit, because I think people generally have slightly darker eyebrows than they do the rest of their hair. So, yeah, actually, quick side note, I'm actually using Kyle's brush set. I don't know if you've heard of it. I'll link it in the description. There are some really fantastic Photoshop brushes that do an amazing job of mimicking everything from pencils to inks to oils to watercolor. It's just a really great set, so I'd highly recommend that. And yeah, so you can see the results here. Clearly, much better than just the bog standard circular brush. I mean, what's the point of that, really? So yeah, I'm just cracking on here with the shadows, and I'll be right back. I'll talk to you in a sec. As you can see, I'm adding some darker tones, so actually what I thought was the mid-tone, that kind of lighter orange, yellowish colour, has been replaced by this slightly browner, slightly greener version. So you're not stuck. That's the thing. That's the thing about painting, both digitally and traditionally, that a lot of people get stuck on, is your decisions aren't final. It's good to try and make the best decision you can, obviously, but if you make a decision and you don't like it, you can change it. And another thing is that the piece you're working on isn't, and I mean, unless it isn't a masterpiece unless you're really, really great. But even then, you can't consider it to be this holy grail. You can't hold it up as some amazing thing. You really have to realize that without experimentation, you're not going to progress. And so that's why this is a very experimental piece for me. It's not traditionally what I do. There's usually a lot more line work, and as it comes along, I will add a bit of line work in there, because I couldn't quite define the edges the way I wanted to. But for the most part, I think I learned quite a lot from this. Of really trying to, especially the nose. That's I'm not pleased with the nose, but noses are weird. It's a very odd thing to try and define from the rest of the face. It looks so obvious on a face, but it's something I need to get some practice with. So these thinner dark lines are kind of where a part of the hair casts a shadow on another part, thereby sort of breaking things up a bit, making things a bit more visually interesting than just a slab of colour on his head, which works for the in-game graphics. But that's obviously not how they do it in the artwork, and it's not how I'm going to do it. So as you can see, we've got Link's hair just just flying up there like that, which is just to indicate that he's being pushed back by the force of Zelda just collapsing into his chest. And then, always very important, the amount of character you can portray with just a little glint in the eye. It does so much. It brings the eyes to life, and a lot of the time you see people drawing these eyes, even people who are a lot better than me, sometimes they just don't think of it. And so I'll be looking on Instagram, I'll be looking on DeviantArt or ArtStation or what have you, and they'll have missed the glint in the eye, and so their character just looks dead. And maybe that's what they want sometimes. Maybe they're drawing like some kind of android, or I don't know, just it doesn't appeal to me anyway. and it has to be very specific. There has to be a reason for it, a character reason, and that's the other thing. The eye shape in particular, are a massive conveyor of character. So if you can, voice squeaked a bit there. If you can get the right shape for your character, so rounder eyes, softer eyes, for a gentler character, and then like sharper eyes, maybe with sort of pointier edges. For instance, for a more aggressive character, just that sort of thing. It's also important to note that when you're drawing hair colours, skin colours, anything like that, blonde doesn't always mean blonde, okay? White doesn't always mean white. What you want to do, I haven't done it here, embarrassingly, but you want to vary things like skin tone, like hair colour between characters, because even two blonde people, they don't have exactly the same hair colour. Two white people may not have exactly the same skin colour. And just by doing that, you're really adding more of a sense of realism, a sense that these aren't just plastic. I say plastic because I'm now realising how plastic this looks. Just a sense of humanity and of realism to the world that you're creating, because you are creating a world, no matter what you're doing. Even if you're just drawing a little doodle in the column of your school books, as I always used to do, that is a world. That is a little tiny world that tells a story. It may not be a long story, it may not be an interesting story in some cases, but it's a story. So you want to be able to tell that story as efficiently as possible, because that is at the heart of what painting in every medium is about. I say a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, it's true, and it's almost, for painters, that's more advice even than it is anything else. So here we are, just adding some tones to Link's shirt. The thing about clothes and skin and hair, they're all shaded slightly differently. Okay, because we're really trying to capture the difference in fabric. And I don't think I've quite got it in this one, but if you look at your shirt, look at your hand, look at your hair, if you're long enough for you to look at that, and you'll see they obviously look vastly different. There's a different texture to them, there's a different feel, different look, different everything. So it's really important to try and take into consideration. I mean, if you're not doing photorealism, even if you're not doing photorealism, you still need to think about these things, because it's important, it's very important. And it just adds, I keep saying this, but it just adds another layer that'll just help you improve. And that's what you're here for, right? Anyway, so I almost forgot to mention, so what I did after I finished the pencils was to just slap them onto a higher layer and just reduce the opacity just really, really low in that top right section of the layers bar. So here we go, we're going into Zelda's hair. And what I wanted to do, I really wanted to get that silkiness, because I don't know, I think of Zelda as someone who just has this beautiful flowing blonde hair. And maybe that's not entirely accurate in this game, having played it since. She does have beautiful flowing long hair, but I mean, she's a bit more, just a bit less of a princess, for lack of a better word, in this version. So there we go. So just adding the highlights there. This part I did quite quickly, because sometimes speed is an asset, you know. Sometimes you don't want to get too bogged down by the tiny little minutiae. So I've kind of blocked this in a little bit to try and make it smoother, softer, all that kind of thing. There we go, just fill in the white there. They both wear quite similar outfits, which I think is a bit strange, but there we go. I expected more interaction between the two characters within the game. I was hoping you'd kind of go on an adventure with Zelda. I won't give any spoilers, but I'll just say that doesn't happen. Maybe it'll happen in the DLC, that'd be quite cool. But I did get the impression that they'd kind of be interacting more than they do. Link's a bit of a loner in this game. I mean, I guess she's a bit of a loner in all games, but even more so in this one. So here I was really trying to convey a sense of depth, and that's another thing. Something that I've only recently come to be able to express in words is tones. What you really want is a piece that within the same colour has vastly different tones. And when I say tones, this is a bit of a simplistic way of putting it, but essentially think light blue and dark blue are different tones within the blue sort of spectrum. And you want a strong dark blue and a strong light blue, because that'll just make your image pop. You know? It'll draw the eye to it. You'll really have created something with a bit more depth than if you haven't done that. And there's some great tutorials here on YouTube for that, and maybe I'll do one as time goes by. See what you guys think of this. Yeah. So hopefully you know what I mean, and we'll crack on and we can really get learning. Okay, so now I've moved on to the background. I was trying to emulate the well, first I tried to do the forest, which I didn't go very well at all. I changed my mind, ended up trying to emulate, I don't know how many of you guys have seen the concept art for this. So it's the characters in these various poses, and then there's just a bit of a wash of just colour behind them. I think it's blue in most of them, if not all. Here though, I tried to create a kind of abstract forest, and it just did not work at all. I hated it. And so you'll see me in due time rub this out, and it will become something hopefully better looking. I thought about doing the wash that I mentioned just then, but I felt like all those washes are blue. Did I want to do a green one? Did I want to compare it to that? That just seemed a bit inconsistent. And I know I'm not a part of their team. I'm not working with them or anything, but it just seemed a bit inconsistent with what might be called their visual style. Yeah, so what I ended up doing was just using a just a normal brush, well, one of the oil brushes, I think, and just doing a bit of an interesting pattern, trying to kind of emulate what you'll see on the Guardians and on the Sheikah slate. Almost forgot the word there. Just trying to convey this sense that the Guardians' aesthetic, if not actually any Guardians, but their aesthetic is kind of closing in and just wrapping them up. Then I played around a bit with lighting and filters and things, but yeah, just to add some depth there. But those symbols are just, I feel like they add a sense of just danger, where things are just crushing in, but only kind of if you know the aesthetic. So maybe that's a failing, maybe that's not, I don't know. But yeah, and so at the end, just, some tweaks, some touch-ups, just getting everything a bit deeper, trying to cut those lines more finely. And then I end up just kind of giving up a bit and using a pencil, which I actually, I don't know, yeah, I quite like it. I shouldn't have done it really, but I do like the result in the end. It does just sculpt things out a bit more finely and creates that sense of that things are separate, because otherwise they're kind of just merging together, which is something I need to work on. See, even geniuses like me. Oh god, no, definitely not a genius. I mean, no one would ever think that. But yeah, and then I realised I forgot the hair clip, even though that was basically the first thing I drew in. Sorry, a bit of a sniffle there. Zelda's hair in this game is very interesting. I quite like it. She's got those weird kind of, I don't know if, what are they called? Those kind of mutton chop things that hang down? I don't know what the word is, but Link's got those too. That seems to be part of their style. But she's also got the braids on her head and then all sorts of things going on. Such a shame we don't see more of her. Anyway, I'm just going to wrap this up, and I will see you at the end. And there we have it, the finished piece. Hope you guys have picked up a few helpful tips on the way that you can use in your art journey. And if you like this video, please head on down below, click the subscribe button, click the like button if you like, the dislike button if you didn't, and go ahead and ask any questions in the comments. Please do. Follow on Instagram if you're into that sort of thing. And I will see you guys next time.